Well, hello all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land, and today I have a large orange box of happiness. Now regrettably I don't get to keep this one. This is a loaner. It's on loan from Mr. Ethan Tate of the Texla Model Railroad Club, and this is a really cool engine. This is one I'm hoping to add to my collection at some point. As you can see, it is Bluetooth enabled. So let's get into this. To extricate the locomotive, you pop that little flap out, that little locking tab, and then open the flap on the box. And wonder why everything always has to be 10 times harder when you're trying to do it on camera. Slide the box off. Inside you'll find the operating manual for, yes, this is a Lionel SD70ACe, a scale ACE. You have the styrofoam cradle that this comes in, now brand new, or you pop this off. Now brand new, this locomotive would come with plastic wrapping and snack packs, but obviously this is not a brand new locomotive. This is a Lionel part number 6-85315 Union Pacific Legacy SD70ACe ACE number 1943, which of course is the spirit of the Union Pacific. This engine was weathered by the owner, and it is a cool locomotive. This particular version of this locomotive is from the 2018 Lionel catalog. So this is not an old locomotive, but it's not a new locomotive either. This variation is readily accessible. You can find them online all over the place, eBay, train shows, consignments at hobby shops. Bear in mind, you are probably going to pay a pretty good price if you do find one that's in good condition. This one is in fairly good condition. It's seen a lot of miles running on layouts at train shows, so there are some minor cosmetic things, some minor cosmetic damage, a couple of details missing, but overall the engine is in good mechanical shape. So to pop this thing out, you can do two things. You can put a palm flat here and support the engine and just turn the styrofoam cradle over. I don't like doing that because things can shift, stuff happens, and now you're drop testing a locomotive unintentionally. So what I prefer to do is just use these little ribbons that Lionel provides to remove the engine anyway. Now granted, stuff can happen doing it this way too, but it seems like a safer option to me, especially since this isn't my locomotive. Okay, fine, we'll do it this way. Sometimes the wheels and truck details like to dig into the styrofoam and make it harder than it has to be, and they really like doing that when I'm trying to do this on camera. So, now that we have the locomotive on the track, we'll look at some of the details and then go over the technological features on this engine. So to start off with, you have really nice grille detailing on this thing. You have see-through grills throughout on this locomotive. This grill here on this little hatch is cast on. The hatch itself is cast on. The windows also slide open and closed, which is a really cool feature. There are crew members on the inside. You have these sunshades, but they are in the downward position. I believe they're supposed to be able to fold up, but I don't want to pry too hard on that because, again, not my locomotive. If I break it, I'll feel really bad. You have the Spirit of the Union Pacific banner here draped across the nose in blue. Of course, the Union Pacific logo here. The 1943, very nicely done with the white trim around the red block lettering, and of course the SD70ACe on the bottom of the cab, which is prototypically correct. Union Pacific's number 1943 was a regular EMD SD70ACe, which is essentially the second generation of the 70ACe. It had upgraded electronics and some other really technical stuff that I'm gonna be 100% real with you guys. I don't care to get that technical, so I didn't research it, but it's essentially an upgraded 70ACe. The reason why Union Pacific, if you don't know the backstory, the reason why the Union Pacific went with the number 1943 is because in 1943, at the height of World War II, the Union Pacific Railroad sponsored the construction of a bomber, which was named Spirit of the Union Pacific. Now, in a wonderful twist of irony, this is where my slightly disgruntled Union Pacific employee comes out. The bomber was shot down on its first run. But I'll save my true feelings on that for another time. So that is the backstory on the Spirit of the Union Pacific and the historical significance of the 1943. Now, the cool thing about the locomotive, the prototype locomotive, and of course this model of it, which is for the most part faithful to the real thing, is that every branch of the U.S. military and the Department of Homeland Security is represented. So, of course, you have gray throughout you have battleship gray throughout this thing. Well, let me take that back. We'll start on the nose. You have the silver and blue for the Air Force. This red stripe is meant to represent the Coast Guard, hence my DHS reference. You have the battleship gray on the middle of the long hood, which represents the United States Navy, and you have the old school fatigue style camo, which represents the Uncle Sam's Misguided Children, Crayon Eaters. I'm sorry, United States Marine Corps. English was not my first language. I apologize. And of course, the greatest military force that has ever existed on the face of the earth, the United States Army. Had to share with those guys, but oh well. And of course, support our troops along the side of the dynamic brake cooling grid. And then you have the Union Pacific Building America back here. Continuing with the walkthrough of the paint job, you have the Prisoner of War Missing in Action logo on the very rear, and of course the 1943 in blue. So this is exactly what you would expect out of a scale. A 1 inch on the model equals 48 inches in the real world scale Lionel locomotive. You have details aplenty on this thing. As I mentioned, the see-through grills. You have very nice and deliberate separation of the various paint, the various colors throughout the paint scheme. And there's no bleed over, there's no flaking or cracking in any of the paint, or the decals, and everything is very nicely done. All of the lettering, to include the little various warning labels and declarations throughout, are legible, albeit some of them require use of a magnifying glass of some type. You have the various little fuel lines on the fuel tank and up on the frame. You have the piping for the brake cylinders and the brake rigging. You have, the various brake rigging and truck portions. You even have the little rotating bearing caps, which don't actually rotate. You've got the sight glass on the fuel tank, emergency shut-off button here. You have the fuel filling nozzle, and of course the fuel gauge, digital fuel gauge, which these locomotives in the real world have. Looking back here at the rear half of the engine, you see more of the same with respect to the truck detailing and the see-through grills. Like pretty much all O-gauge or O-scale locomotives, the pilot is separate from the frame and the body of the locomotive. It's actually attached to the trucks. As you can see here, me slipping my pointer in between the top step and the second to top step. That allows this engine to negotiate curvature tighter than it otherwise would be able to were that pilot a solid piece. You have separately applied grab irons all the way up, and of course the vertical grab iron in the correct spot on the rear of the long hood. Overall, just a very nicely done, relatively faithful to prototype representation of for this model. Looking at the front end of this engine, you'll notice that the snowplow is missing, regrettably. The coupler cut bar has a little bit of some bending, some minor cosmetic damage. You can see the electro coupler here. This is a remote control operating knuckle coupler. And you have the requisite MU hoses. Now there is no MU cable. You can see this little guy here, this separately applied, almost looks like a grab iron. That's actually the little clip. That's actually the bar that if you look at a real locomotive with the MU cable, you'll notice that it's clipped in the middle to this bar. So that's what this is. This is the MU cable clip bar, I guess what you could call it. You have the headlight arranged in the correct position, as well as the operating ditch lights. You have a nicely done hand railing and grab irons, separately applied grab iron, and separately applied grab irons up the front of the nose, as well as a very nicely done and a little off center, a little bit, looking at it this way, right of center, Union Pacific logo with the wings. And of course the safety chain is an actual chain. It's like a little necklace chain. You've got separately applied windshield wipers and grab irons on both sides of the cab, and you have the separately applied grab irons here, 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 and here. The sand filling nozzles are represented, and they are also separately applied. You do have interior illumination in the cab, and the number boards illuminate as well. This model features directional headlighting, so when it's in forward, this headlight is on. When it's in reverse, the rear headlight's on. You also have some safety, non-slip safety tread detailing on the pilot and all throughout the walkways on this engine. And the steps on the side of the locomotive, which a few of them are broken off and missing, which that's the more of that minor cosmetic damage I was talking about, have the see-through perforations. So they are actually see-through, separately applied parts. Looking along the top of the locomotive, you get a better view of those separately applied grab irons I was talking about. You have the PTC and radio antenna array up here. You have the ridges that are on the top of the locomotive there over the electrical cabinet. This is supposed to be an operating smoke unit. It is not operable at the moment. He hasn't replaced the smoke unit. It burnt out, so no smoke on this thing. The prototypically correct 5-chime air horn. You have see-through grills, see-through fan grills. And you have the separately applied grab iron here, as well as around the fan itself. Now, popping off the dynamic brake cooling blister, where the fan and the grills are, that shows the manual switches on the locomotive as well as the volume adjustment knob. So here you have the run program switch, which this engine is not programmed on my DCS, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in program. You have the no smoke switch. So if I flip this over to here, it would turn the smoke unit on, but given that the smoke unit is burnt out, I'm going to leave this off. This has serrations, so you can twist it by hand to increase or lower the volume, or you can use a flat tip screwdriver to do the same thing. And then this is a flywheel for one of the two motors on the locomotive. This engine has one motor per truck. They are vertically mounted can motors with flywheels to aid in smoother operation of the engine. This brake blister just pops on and pops off. It's held in place by manner of friction and weak magnets to help keep it in place. And I did neglect to mention the lift rings on either end and either side of the dynamic brake blister. And from this shot you can see very clearly the see-through nature of those grills. And finally, you can see there's some more see-through grill detailing here. You can see the vertical grab irons in the correct spot, the sand filling nozzles here and here. As I mentioned earlier, the separately applied grab irons that go from the pilot all the way up to the top of the roof on the long hood. Again, the safety chain that's actually chain and separately applied grab irons. A bit oversized, but they still look good. Separately applied coupler cut lever. The MU hoses. You have the big air, the main train air hose, the electro coupler, and more MU hoses. And of course the MU cable clip bar here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the South Texas Railroad is operated with MTH's DCS system. Now, if you have the correct components, you can operate Lionel, Legacy, and TMCC equipped locomotives with the MTH DCS system. Now, I have the correct stuff to do that, so I am going to program this engine for my DCS, and I'm going to walk you through how to do it. So the first step, obviously, you put the locomotive in program. Once that's done, you put power to the rail. With power applied to the rail, I'm going to hit the menu button on my DCS remote. I'm going to scroll down to System. I'll push in the toggle when I hit System, and then I'll go to Engine Setup, which is the top option there. I'll hit my toggle again. One more time, Add Engine. I'll scroll down to Add TMCC Engine, and then we'll go through the naming process. You have the full alphabet all throughout plus numbers, so we'll just go ahead and make this UP 1943. UP space, number 1 9 4 3. Done. We'll select the address, which should be 43. So we'll scroll down to 43. There it is, address 43. Locomotive is added. And we'll hit System, System, System to reset the remote, go all the way back out. Now we will kill the power to the track. Put that guy back and run. Put the dynamic brake cooling grid back on. Reapply power to the rail. We'll go through, hit engine, and look for address number 43. There it is, 43. Select and hit the startup button. Alright, so now that we have the engine running, we'll go through some of the features. You have with the command control, you can rev the engine, the prime mover sounds independent of the throttle position. So we'll run through that. Interesting. Apparently that's not available on DCS. Well, you can do it. That's aux 1. There's aux 2.
Dispatcher, we're ready. Is it okay to pull? Over. Please hold. Getting your route wide now. Copy that. Standing by. Out.
Aux 7.
This is the yard office. Sit tight for a minute. We've got some traffic to clear first. Over. Roger. Waiting for your signal. Out.
Aux 9. Air hiss. Or, excuse me, that's aux 8. This is aux 9. Air hiss again. Seven is the headlight, which it's marked on there. And unfortunately, that's really all you're going to have on DCS. So we're going to power this down and play around with the Bluetooth. Oh, I forgot. Couplers. The electro couplers will work on the DCS system. And of course, you have your basic bell and whistle. Now, a further caveat. While I don't have a legacy remote and legacy system, if you do, you have the quillable whistle. You'll also be able to MU this, or excuse me, lash up this engine with another locomotive, another legacy locomotive. Of course, on the DCS system, you can't lash up Lionel engines with one another. You can't lash up Lionel engines at all. And you certainly can't lash up, even with both systems, you can't lash up DCS, MTH DCS, and Lionel Legacy or TMCC locomotives together. Okay, so we have the power off, as you can tell by the deafening silence in the garage. We'll go pull up the Lion Chief app on my cellular tellular phonic device. Wait for it to load. Search for a locomotive. And there it is. And I have full command of this engine.
This is the Yardmaster. Please hold at your location. Over. Acknowledged. Waiting on a clear signal. Out.
So this locomotive has a boatload of features, really technical stuff that I'm really not going to get that into because, you know, if you want to investigate a little bit deeper, you can read your owner's manual, which I highly encourage you to do so anyway, regardless to how familiar you are with this stuff or not. And I'm going to be running this thing with my DCS system, so I mean, I don't want to go through a whole lot of features that I'm not going to be able to access. One thing I will make note of is this thing has Odyssey speed control, which is nice when it works. So, which it does on this one, so nothing to fear there. So let's fire this bad boy up.
Dispatcher, we're ready. Is it okay to pull? Over. Please hold. Getting your route line now. Copy that. Standing by. Out. This is the Yardmaster. Please hold at your location. Over. Okay, standing by. Out. Dispatcher, am I cleared to the outbound? Over. Please hold. Getting your route line now. Acknowledged. Waiting on a clear signal. Out. Tower, can we move yet? Over. Sit tight for a minute. We've got some traffic to clear first. Over. Copy that. Sitting tight. Out. This is the yard office. Sit tight for a minute. We've got some traffic to clear first. Over.
Okay, so a couple of things I forgot to mention earlier in the talkie portion of this review. For starters, this locomotive has a minimum operating radius of 0.54. So if you're new to the O gauge hobby or you're curious about it but you're not really that familiar, O scale and O gauge, we measure the curvature in terms of circumference, which is the distance across a circle, rather than radius, which is the way all the other two railers do it. So 0.54 in two rail speak would be 27-inch radius curvature. So this is not a small railroad locomotive. You do have to have some degree of curvature to be able to operate this thing. The reason for that is there are no blind wheels on this thing. All 6 axles of this locomotive have flanges on the wheels. A lot of O-scale locomotives have blind wheels, which basically means they're wheels that don't have flanges, so that they can operate on tighter curvature than they otherwise would be able to. This is not one of those, and if you do have a layout with curvature less than 0.54, unfortunately you are going to be stuck out unless you just buy, enough 0.54 track to, I don't know, make a loop around the Christmas tree or just throw it down on the floor. But otherwise, excellent locomotive. Even with the minor cosmetic defects, this is a great engine. It's a fun engine to run, and I'm looking for one of these for my personal collection. Have been for a while, but I thank y'all for watching. I got the best viewers and subscribers on YouTube. Texas Special out.